So this is so cool because we went in and we actually talked to Benzene, and we offered Benzene a choice to either transmute to something useful in my body or leave. And Benzene chose to transmute. And I have been living with end stage liver cirrhosis since the 90s, and was expected to not live past 99. And the doctors have been blown away that I'm still here. And recently, the past since Benzene transmuted, and we also had a session where I dealt with anger, and my whole soul family met inside of my liver. That was really bizarre. And there was a lot of healing that happened there. And since then, my cirrhosis has gone from F4 to F1, F2. And that doesn't happen.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Craw-Goldman again with quantumhealers.com. And I've been looking forward to this meeting, this show with a friend and colleague of mine, Julia Wagner, and her client, Annette. And I'm going to allow Julia to introduce herself and Annette a little more thoroughly. But Annette and Julia have a fantastic BQH story and outcome. And just at the outset, what I want to say is this happens a lot. There are a lot of great BQH outcomes. Not too many people feel very comfortable talking about them. So I'm so happy to be here with both of you. Welcome, welcome. So take it over, Julia.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. And Annette. I've
Yeah.
been a BQH practitioner for about 4 years, and I started with QHHT before that. So I've been practicing for about 5 years total now. And Annette's been with me a lot of this journey. I think we started, what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes, 2020, I think.
Yeah. So she's been sort of one of my first clients, one of the people that would really trust me. And so the experiences that we've had along the way are just marvelous. And even from the get-go, you can just see so much change in Annette's personality, her presence, her friendliness, just everything. And I'll let you tell them more about it. But, we started about 4 years ago. And at that point, she was given sort of glimpses. And it's interesting how we've come back and we've seen almost every single thing, if not everything that she saw in that first session. We've come back to it over the years and had so much physical transformation and success.
Oh, yeah.
How would you
Amazing.
introduce yourself, Annette? What would you say about this process?
Well, when I first met Julia, it I didn't know what to expect. I had never heard of quantum healing, and I had been working on healing probably since 87. And so what I'm amazed about is the true transformation that's gone on in my soul and my spirit, my mind, and my body, because I've been able to eradicate a lot of false beliefs that I called truths, and they held me back, and they created physical manifestations came out, and my illnesses were really, really strong. And fortunately, I've had quite a few different remarkable healings that were brought through the Beyond Quantum Healing sessions with Julia. And
so many that we're having a hard time remembering some of them.
I know.
Listening to writing them out, but wait, what happened that time?
Yeah.
That's so fantastic. So just about how many sessions have you all done together? Just like, a handful or more than that?
Oh, I think it's probably close to 15 at least, maybe, huh?
Yeah, I mean, over the year, this last time we went about 6 months without doing a session, and that's probably the longest time. That seemed like so long.
Yeah, I know.
So, maybe we'll meet every couple months, or whenever we start thinking about each other, or whenever Annette has a physical symptom start to come up. It's almost like seems like the first thing she thinks about instead of how do I blame this on somebody? And how do I get mad? You know, like we all might tend to do sometimes. It's more like, how can I solve this? What is it showing me? How can I benefit from these symptoms? And,
Right.
you know, not punish myself, or what is this
Yeah.
trying to show me? It's almost like sometimes the negative things are a little gift or a little just nudge in the right direction to show you something that you wouldn't
Right.
have appreciated or even recognized without that obstacle.
Right. It's
So
kind of like
yeah,
a flashlight for me. It lights the way to something that my body has carried that no longer serves me, and it's time to release it. And now when things hit me, instead of asking why, I ask what is my role and my responsibility now that this has come to light. And then I'm shown, what I can do. And it's really amazing. Release is so transforming, and the freedom that I have to truly enjoy my life, no matter what life is serving on the platter at that time.
Well, that's just fantastic. Well, I'm all about the stories. So tell me some stories like, what kind of sessions have produced what kind of outcomes? There's, these all sound fantastic, but how
yeah.
about some specifics? We'd love to hear some nitty gritty details if you don't mind sharing.
Probably the one thing I was going to bring up that was really remarkable is that your brain studies showed that you could not go into theta state before we started, right? Am I
Yes,
correct?
absolutely. I am not able to do that. Well, I
Well,
do
you were not
now.
able to do that. I'll say that because I swear we go into lots of different brain states.
Yes.
So I think that it's really interesting that somebody who went through sleep studies, they've tested her brain. She quote unquote can't do this thing.
Right.
And after just a couple sessions, she was going. It did take a little bit to get to that, what I call the soul or the higher self or the subconscious mind. It took just a little bit of asking and prompting to kind of get into that headspace. But I would,
Now it's almost instantaneous,
yeah,
really
yeah, you can
amazing.
go. Yeah.
And I'm really anxious to look. I'm having a sleep study done, and
Oh,
I'm going to be very anxious because it's the first one since I've been doing the quantum healing. And I'm anxious to see what waves. I think Delta was the only wave I stayed in 24 hours a day. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what's gone on internally besides what's gone on in my mind and my heart.
Okay, so I got to stop you there. Many of our viewers have listened to a lot of these programs. Delta is sleep. How can
yeah.
you be in Delta 24
Well,
hours?
Yeah, I was
that's
gonna say
the
I don't
thing.
think you're
I
correct,
I
buddy.
have a memory problem, so it might have been alpha that I stay in. There's one state I stay in all the time,
It's
and
probably alpha. That would make the most sense because you can rest
yeah,
and you can talk
Or
and
theta.
you can walk and
yeah,
stand upright
Yeah,
with alpha, but with delta, you're not going
yeah, that's
places.
yeah. No, and
yeah.
I think that's what he said is that I never went into delta. I stayed in alpha all the
Now
time,
that
which
makes sense.
and what happens is when I dream, I can direct my dreams because I'm always thinking. And so it's really kind of a bizarre thing. And
That's kind of a gift in a way, if you ask
Yeah.
me. I mean, you would
yeah,
call that lucid dreaming. So, I mean, when you can actively direct your dreams, shoot, there's a lot you can get done.
yeah, there's a lot of healing that had gone on in my dreams that I didn't know was going on. And it was quite amazing when I did a session and I was taken back to the same place where I used to dream as a child for 7 years. I dreamt of a space I went to that was all gray, and I
Yeah.
rescued women who were lost in that gray space. And we went back a few different times. I've been taken back there, and I think all of the women are gone out of that space now. And it's really weird because I just thought it was a dream. I never knew what it meant, and I still don't quite know what it means, except that souls were led to the light, and to
Yeah.
me, I think one of the most amazing things about quantum healing is
Yeah.
you just don't work on healing your soul. You are led to places where you can offer the light, the healing light to souls that are trapped, you know, maybe because of how they died or what they were believing when they died. I'm not sure how that entrapment happens, but many of us do get stuck. And it's really cool to be used as a tool to offer freedom and light to these people in my soul family.
I was thinking about, and sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
that judgment, or that, people that are trapped. It reminds me of your session with benzene and being lava.
Yeah.
She went back, and she's like, I'm bursting forth. I'm lava. I'm a volcano. I'm coming out of this. And it was such exuberant energy.
Yeah, it
And then
really was.
tell them what happened next.
Okay, so as lava, I'm in the earth, and all I can think of is getting out, and moving forward. And when I did, it was the most exuberant, elated experience shooting out of the earth. But when I landed on the earth, everything I touched died. And I felt their life leaving. And I felt so guilty. And I carried that guilt and the feeling like I didn't deserve anything good because of what I was. I took life just by being me. And so I carried that. And it was really quite freeing when I was able to offer that healing light to my soul as lava. And I have a freedom. And it's funny because today, preparing for today, I read some of my old sessions and listened to them. And every single one that I chose to listen to all went back to the feeling that I'm unworthy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been walking in lately. I've been allowing myself once again, to feel those feelings, even though I'd been freed from them. And so I just say thank you to the universe for revealing to me, yes, this is something that is still needs to be weeded and worked on. And that I'm not supposed to allow myself, when my first reaction is to put myself under because I'm not worthy, that I am to stop that immediately and allow the acts of kindness that are coming to me to come to me without pushing them away.
Fantastic. Well, other than and I'm not sure, I've done thousands and thousands of sessions over the years. I'm not sure I've ever had lava as an experience. And the way you encapsulated that was just really poignant. Everything you touched, died. Wow. I mean, to carry that guilt of lava around,
and
then
diagnosed with benzene poisoning too in this lifetime, which is from lava creates benzene.
That's crazy. So
that is crazy. Yeah.
So were you able to release the toxicity of the benzene? I mean, how'd that work? I mean, what happened?
So this is so cool because we went in and we actually talked to benzene, and we offered benzene a choice to either transmute to something useful in my body or leave. And benzene chose to transmute. And I have been living with end stage liver cirrhosis since the 90s, and was expected to not live past 99. And the doctors have been blown away that I'm still here. And recently, since benzene transmuted, and we also had a session where I dealt with anger, and my whole soul family met inside of my liver. That was really bizarre. And there was a lot of healing that happened there. And since then, my cirrhosis has gone from F4 to F1, F2. And that doesn't happen.
Wow.
cirrhosis doesn't reverse, and not at the stage mine was. My liver hadn't pumped blood, 100% blood, since for over 20 years. It was unable to. It had to go through my spleen, and the all of the portal veins in my liver are completely restored, and the blood's flowing through it like it's supposed to. And the varicose veins that formed in my esophagus because the blood couldn't go through, so it was causing that as a side effect. Those are gone. And so
Annette, Annette, I have to ask you, what did your doctor say when he's or she is telling you this? I mean, you know, these are my favorite parts of these stories.
I know. Well, the thing that happened with this one, it's a brand new doctor because I moved. And so he wasn't familiar with everything. But it's a teaching hospital. And so one of the doctors who is getting his PhD was so interested in the beyond quantum healing. And I was able to share when they came into the room, that they were so shocked. And many different doctors came in to even do the ultrasound over again because they couldn't believe what they were seeing. And so I had like a captive audience, so to speak. and this one gentleman was so curious, and he asked for specifics, so I gave him specifics so he could look up quantum healing and research it, because his heart was in healing the human. And this is a true way of truly healing. You're not just offering a physical healing, you're offering a healing to the soul, so that when I leave this life, I'm a little further than I was, and I'm a lot lighter. I don't carry all of the chains of judgment that I placed on myself. And, I'm still releasing some of the things that I've carried with me forever. And not just from this life, I carried them from other lives.
You know, I'd like to point out something that I think is rather interesting that you said about this new doctor. Do you know, even though I said I've not had anyone who is lava, I tell you what I have had. I have had clients who've had remarkable, this can't happen type healings. Right. And when I've asked some of these questions, well, what did your doctor say? Not all, but some of them have said, well, I've moved or I changed doctors. And you know what? I've actually explored that a little bit. And so some of that is the whole orchestration of your healing is we have to change medical teams, right? You got to get that energy out of there, because you may, and I'm buzzing like crazy as I'm saying this, you have a doctor there who's like, this can't change, right? This sort of test result cannot change. That energy is part of the whole system of your healing. So that was removed. You got a new doctor in, yes. It opened up in part, not of course everything, but it was part of the puzzle of opening things up so that you could achieve the kind of healing that they say is impossible, right?
Exactly. And see, the thing that happened is every 3 months I had to be tested because I was so advanced. And he had 8 patients hooked up to tubes waiting for livers. And he said my liver was far worse than all of theirs. And every 3 months I had to hear, the next stage is cancer. The next stage is cancer. And so I decided, as much as I love that doctor, and he actually saved my life, he went and fought for me to get medication that killed the virus. So I no longer have Hep C. And because they denied it. And he took 4 hours out of his day to appeal for me. And so I give him tons of honor for that. But I just couldn't hear it anymore. And so when I moved up here and I went back to the doctors that first diagnosed me, the hospital that first diagnosed me, they have a history and they can see everything. And they're very amazed at it. And some of them just discount and shake it off when you say that. But the fact is the spoken word is stored in here. and our mind. And so even if they don't pay heed at this moment, another moment in time, something might come to them where all of a sudden that piece of information will kick in and will lead them to being able to offer true healing to their, because I've gone through a lot of different healings working with Julia. It's so freaking amazing.
Now remind me, I think that the thing that triggered Candace's interest was a comment that you made on one of my other clients' posts where you're talking about, I think it was your brain scan.
Oh yeah. So before moving here, I had my third MRI on my brain that showed I had a mass in my frontal lobe in the gray matter, I think, or white matter, I can't remember. And it was staying about the same size. It hadn't grown that much in the 3 years, but it was still there. And so we went in a session and I talked to it, to the mass, and I did the same thing I did with benzene, offering, do you want to transmute or leave? And the mass chose just to leave. And so then I got a MRI. I told my doctor because she's a naturopath and she was very intrigued by quantum healing. And so she was yeah, let's see, and sure enough, it's gone. It's completely gone. And
to the point we can't seem to even find the recording of that session. If I'm not wrong,
yeah,
it's gone. We can't even listen to it.
Yeah,
sometimes that happens. So with BQH, what we share on our forum, and what I share within the training, of course, is finding the root cause of all of these things. Do you mind sharing what the root cause of the mass was, or really anything?
well, the root cause of the mass actually was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was the parasite that gets in a cat box. My mama was pregnant.
Toxoplasmosis.
That's what it was.
Toxo.
But that's the root cause, maybe chemically, but what's the root cause of you experiencing that toxoplasmosis?
I don't know.
Remember.
I don't remember that. I don't know. We went there.
I'm sure we did, but I'm trying to think though if it's maybe related to the other things that was going on with the self-judgment and the spine. And like we did this one particular session where she was at first, it was really cool because the whole session was like an evolution. And so we saw her as a single-celled organism. And then we saw her growing, and basically her whole function as that creature was she was filtering. She was eating stuff from the bottom of the sea floor, filtering it through her body and keeping what she needed. So it was really interesting that in that lifetime, as she had just evolved into a new form, she was eating something, and she realized as she was eating it that it was also an advanced life form. It wasn't food, it was a friend. And as she's eating it, she thinks, oh no, I'm not supposed to do this. And her spine gets severed. She's killed right at that moment where she's having the judgment. I don't deserve to evolve. I don't deserve to be advanced. And so I wonder if that, since it's so close to the spine, because it was right here, I wonder if that was part of that judgment. I don't deserve to think. I don't deserve to have that frontal. I don't deserve to have that evolution. That's it, because I'm crying. I don't deserve to have the.
That's really fascinating. I do want to point out to our listeners that you don't have to mentally figure all of this out, by the way. There are many sessions that even though we look for things like, well, what's the root cause? Because sometimes hearing it, understanding it, being shown that is all you need, but you don't always need that to have healing, because it's basically, it's the heart-centered, genuine intention of releasing, expanding, growing, finding more love, finding more heart, all of that stuff, and coming together with a practitioner who has the same goals in mind. Sometimes that's all you need to have fantastic healing, even if there's not a story, right? Even if there's not a beginning, middle, and end. So I just want to make sure to say that.
Right.
But just had so
Mhm.
many fantastic things. Annette,
Ne-
were you as a kid somebody who could imagine easily or have a lot of pretend time,
Oh
or
yes,
what kind of person were you?
as a child, I was unfortunately my mother wasn't able to handle being a mom, and she took my birth as a punishment from God. And so, how do you embrace and love a punishment from God? And because I was born with a cleft palate, and so was forced to give a baby up for adoption before my birth. And she felt that my birth defect was a sign from God that she was bad. And she already believed that she could never be loved on during this life. And she passed that on to me. And I was very, very good. I was astute at believing I was unworthy and that I would never know love till I left this earth. I honestly believe that. And but I got lost in
I
my
wish I
thinking.
could
I'm
find some of our
sorry.
older conversations, because just the energy that you have now is so different than
I know, isn't it
when we were
though?
first working together. And I remember you were talking about that little girl on the blanket, the little girl on the blanket when you were a toddler and you felt so rejected. And we kept coming back to this scene of this little girl who's so precious
Yeah,
and just being rejected because the people just don't know any better. It's not her, it's not the little girl, and it's not even the
right,
parents exactly. It's not their fault either, but
right,
it's nothing to do. And just seeing the interaction from a whole different perspective and a whole nother
right.
light, giving that opportunity to your mother to show up for you now, even though
I
she's in it
know.
beyond.
Yeah, see, that's the amazing thing. Um, Before my mother died, I was able to forgive her, and I actually took care of her for 10 years before she passed. And but now I have such an admiration because my mother actually chose to come into this world and to beat me and to live as that person. Um, and to me, what that was a really honorable thing she did, to choose to be my mother, to choose to be the one who applied the harshness so that I actually could evolve to where I'm at now. And it's not just healing myself, it's soul family healing that's going on. Mom and dad, my blood family, healing that's going on in their lives, And it's amazing to me to see uh, the impact that just one person healing their soul, how it does affect it. It's a ripple effect, and it's really totally cool. I love it.
You know what's interesting? So, you just said something about your blood family, and then you talked
Hmm.
about the meeting in your liver, and then you talked about the fact that you hadn't had blood go through your liver. And I'm guessing, your mom and your blood family was part of that gathering in your liver. And here we are
Right.
talking about the blood, right? And then the blood
Yeah,
flows where it couldn't flow before.
I know.
Wow, that's really special and amazing.
Yeah, it is. It blows me away. And I'll tell you though, there was one healing that and that's of my gallbladder, that was to me the most remarkable because I didn't even know that Pocahontas was a part of my family, but she is, through ancestry. My daughter found it out. And so when I wanted to address guilt, and we carry guilt in our gallbladder, and I was scheduled for gallbladder removal, but I didn't want to have that. I wanted to go and ask, what can I do? And so when I was seeking the universe, the creator, for, what I should address, it was guilt. Guilt is what I was shown. So we went there. Um, And that was our intention at the beginning of the session, to be taken to exactly where I needed to go to address the guilt. And we were taken to a scene. A prairie, and there was teepees, and there was Pocahontas, and she was at a fire, and there was 11 stones around the fire. And I'm not sure why that 11 is very important, but it is very important in my life. And she had a fire, and she was pouring out all of her grief and sorrow and sadness and guilt. She felt tremendous guilt because after helping the white man, later her tribe was attacked by the white men, and many people died in her village, and she carried such guilt for that, and she didn't know how to get rid of it, so she burned it in the fire, just burned the guilt away. And while I was watching it, a shaman came to me and asked me to come with him. And he took me into his teepee, and he had me lay down, and he had a feather, and he was doing prayers and songs over me. And then he actually reached into my body and was massaging my gallbladder. And he just massaged my gallbladder, and all the guilt was released. And then my higher self told me that for 2 weeks or so, I would be passing gallstones and bile. And for 2.5 weeks, I passed so much bile and so many stones. And it was just amazing to me that every time I was like, whoa, there it is. And when I went back to the doctor, because I had asked him if I could have 3 months to find an alternative. And I went back in like a month and a half, and he was so shocked because there was nothing in there. And he was blown away by my story. I didn't go in depths about the shaman putting his hand inside of me because,
We
okay,
get
that's a little bit too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
it. We get it. We get it. I am so struck by this. Annette, any one of these stories, it could be a whole show and a whole spectacular gift to give to a human. What I would like right now for you and Julia to address is this idea that you have manifested, accepted, and able to accept multiple miraculous physical measurable healings that are impossible. Multiple.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, what I have to say is that I am the most adept at procrastination. And I have
I'll fight you
been,
for that one.
yeah, I've been
But
being
later, we'll
told
do it later.
I've been being told or instructed that I'm supposed to write a book for many years, and I keep putting it off. And that's one of the things that we've addressed several different times, is the block that I have, that is just like paralyzes me from sitting down and doing what I know will just flow out of me. I am a good writer, and it should just flow, but I won't let it. And so today, when I was listening, preparing for this, what do I hear but this session where we were dealing specifically with these blockages? And it all goes back to that feeling of being unworthy. And, I step into that space more than I should, because all of us are worthy. We're all created, and we were created in the image of the creator itself. And how divine is that? And so each one of us are here, and regardless of our story of what we've lived through and the choices we've made, none of that has anything to do with who we are in our soul within us. And so the healing that can take place is so much deeper than any I've done all types of healing and used a lot of different tools, you know, like EMDR and DBT and all of those things, but nothing ever brought the gift of freedom like quantum healing has. There's a freedom that I have that I never had before. And that freedom is with each session, there's an awareness that is grasped and woven into the tapestry of my life. And there are threads that I've been able to remove from that tapestry. And some of the threads, you know, were there were just so many that it would seem like a daunting task, but it can be addressed in a second, in just a second, in a blink of an eye. And it's unbelievable to be able to step into a new awareness and embrace who you truly are without all of the judgment that we as humans tend to do to ourselves and others. You know, we classify and then we judge, you know, and that's it's not useful
I really
for
like
us.
like Annette is so good at what I say cutting cords. Like I tend to consider myself a weaver. I'm trying to make the most out of every thread. I don't want to cut those things. But I tell you, she's an inspiration when it comes to setting the boundaries, cutting the cords, getting rid of stuff. My tendency is to tend to accumulate. And you know, I think when she went into that other life where she really is like a filtering things
Yeah,
out that we don't need, getting rid of them. And so it's a nice balance, isn't it, to learn
yeah,
what we can take a hold of, what those threads that we cut, those relationships we do not want to reinforce again.
yeah,
And then we can see the relationships that are beneficial, those threads that we can weave in and that we want to spread to the family. Look at
right,
this. And we don't need this, the Nazi in World War II,
right.
that
And
energy,
what
you
I
know.
think's really cool too is because when we're cutting those cords, um, we're the children who haven't reached the age of accountability, where they're making their own choices based on their own being. Um, they are they won't ever have to have those feelings coursing through their body. The different feelings the different emotions and responses that I had for my whole entire life. I'm 67, and to be able to take all of those beliefs and just leave them behind and allow myself to actually blossom and grow into the person who I truly am without all of those restraints that were self imposed. And some of them were carried on from other lifetimes, you know. And so to me, it's just like so amazing. And it's so cool to know that the children that are being born from this point forward are not going to have to deal with a whole bunch of different issues that have coursed through the veins of my family for generations, both sides.
And you have
And
a grandbaby on the
oh,
way now, right?
yeah, it's so, yeah, we do. Two
So
more months.
congrats.
Yeah. Excuse me. The sun is moving.
Very good. Oh, that's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
I'm still very intrigued by the meeting in your liver. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so the family that was there, including your mother, and you're just talking about timelines and the forward passage of time into, the progeny,
Mhm.
children ahead. Was any of the healing that went backward into time, was any of that talked about or discovered or examined? I mean, like, I know you said that you had given your mother forgiveness, but sometimes from the other side, they can heal backwards. I wonder if any of that was looked at.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And what's really cool is like, I mean, a planet was there, Lyra.
Oh yeah.
I, Yeah, remember
Yes,
that?
we did have a Lyra connection. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot
And
about
so
that.
Lyra was in my liver with me, and all of these different people, and people that I know today that I would never have believed were a part of my soul family, but they are. And they I forget what all we really focused on when we were there, because I was just like so taken back by standing there and seeing all of these people who were there with me, and they're with us all the time, you know. And I just think
And
it's
yeah,
so
it wasn't just from one lifetime. It was like from all the
no, it was
different
from
sessions.
so
Because
many lifetimes.
yeah, from so
So
many
amazing.
lifetimes, it was like I
Yeah,
just could see them in my mind's eye, even just all around
yeah.
building this energy. It was very
And
impressive. Impressive.
and it was so cool, and everybody came together to lift me up, you know. And it was so cool because of the restoration that then started in my liver. um you know, well, it started in my heart and soul before it went to my liver.
Well, I was
But
thinking of that first session. I think it was our first session where you saw the 12 panels, and I'm almost thinking like a, like a tic-tac-toe thing, but 12 panels of different lives.
I've
And that was,
had that. I've seen this my whole entire life since I was very young and didn't know what the heck it was about. A cliff on the beach, and me standing in front in a dress my mom made me when I was about 11 years old, was when the first traumatic assault happened on my life. And I was standing in front of this cliff, and there was 12 cubes, kind of like a mausoleum. And inside the cubes were 11 bodies. There wasn't a 12th one.
okay.
And I always took it as an adult. I took that as, well, that means I'm not going to be assaulted anymore. That the next assault will actually end my life.
Hmm.
But I found out that wasn't true. And I was able to live through an assault later on and not have it affect me the same way that any of the other assaults on my life had been. And so I haven't seen that cliff yet to see if that 12 hole
Well,
is
that's what I was
full.
going to say. I wonder if you check in now, what are those body? Are they still bodies? Are they alive? What are these? If you look now, what are they doing? If you
Mm,
go to that cliff, are they less
yeah.
somber? What's the weather like there?
The archetype of the standing at the edge of a cliff looking over the ocean, I've experienced that scene with number of clients.
Uh-huh.
Almost always female, almost always in a dress, that almost always the wind is blowing. Almost, I mean, it is quite the archetype. It lands, it's translated into many different people's lives, and often there's it's like a decision point. Like a lot
Mhm.
of they show up to the, and then there's a decision there, made that changes things. And sometimes, of course, there's this idea of launching themselves, or all sorts of other things can happen. But how fascinating is that, to how very varied your sessions have been? Are you very visual? Have you always been very visual? Has that changed during all of your sessions?
Well, actually, the thing that has changed is that I'm actually able to use visualizations. Before, when I would be in a guided visualization, I had never been able to follow it. I always made my own path. As soon as they said, okay, you're in the forest. Okay, from that point on, I'm walking, and my trail is taking me where I'm going to go, despite what they're saying. Nothing they're saying is leading me. And so now it's not true. I can actually be led, and I can receive what I actually went there for, instead of standing in my own space and filtering out what I don't want to accept. I'm now able to stand before my higher self and stand before God, and I can accept what comes to me without questioning why it's here. And when you live in a state of acceptance and gratitude, daily gratitude is so essential. You actually can have total contentment in your life, despite all of the financial, physical, whatever going on.
Well, you
It
woke up
doesn't
with pain
matter.
today, right? Sorry to
Oh
interrupt you.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you woke up with spinal pain this morning,
I did. It
and
was so intense. I couldn't believe how bad the pain in my spine. And last night it started, and it was in the sacral area, which I haven't had to deal with the sacral pain in a very, very long time. And it was just a reminder um, that I am still holding on to that sense that I'm unworthy, and that's not a truth. And so I, I'm led to where I have to really make a choice if I'm willing to carry that belief system and hold it as mine, or if I'm ready to say, okay, I don't I don't want any roots of unworthiness left in my being, because I am worthy. And that's very hard to say, because that part of me inside who still feels totally judged and unworthy of anything, um, that little girl is like shaking right now.
You've done so much work and had such brilliant experiences, but this whole time that you're telling your story, I'm thinking about, and I do a lot of work with babies and mamas and hospitals, and there's in my life right now a very special person of mine. She just went through another birth too, but the baby that is gestating in a mother's womb, excuse me, is marinating in their energy, right?
Yes.
Your mother is feeling unworthy. So my question is, have you ever Julia, have you all ever ended up where you're in your mother's womb and exploring some of that?
Julia, did we actually?
that's something that I'd been thinking of in the last session that we should explore. Like I literally was thinking the womb space healing that I've, picked up from certain,
Yeah.
that we should do that specifically. But I think that's also interesting that we've worked a lot with your children. And so it's
Yes.
interesting that we haven't just done the previous
Right.
generations, but we're extending that even to your children. And they gave permission for us to work with them too. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so knowing that they're on board, that we can contact the whole family soul at whatever
Yes.
stage it makes most sense to look at the problem or the obstacle and
Right.
address it from there. And so it's not off limits to do any of those things. And I really was just thinking about that womb space healing. I was like,
Yeah, and that's
we've
funny
done that. I
because the
should do that
womb,
with Annette.
yeah, that's funny because that's been coming to me too, the womb healing.
Yeah.
And I forget, I didn't do quantum healing with someone else, but she got messages, and we were talking, and she shared with me that she saw that message was imprinted in me when I was 7 months in my mom's, and at 7 months my mother was completely ostracized from her family, and my mother grew up believing that she was unlovable, and accepted my father's love as the only love that she could ever have. And she actually sadly died not knowing that she was worthy of love. And that is what led me to healing, is because I vowed I wasn't going to leave this earth like mama, not learning the lessons that I came here to learn, you know? And so they're really hard sometimes to face. And there's been a lot of different thought patterns that I've had that I've been able to realign with truth and weed out the false, the misperceptions that I was so indignantly strong holding on to.
Well, they were protecting you, you thought.
Yeah,
You
they
know?
really did.
You
Yes,
think they are.
they served me a purpose, and they kept me from certain things that I always wanted. And that's why I was willing to break through, because I didn't want to be the reason why I never felt love. You know?
This is all just, you know, so heartwarming, your whole story. But I've got a couple questions for Julia
Okay.
as the practitioner. So a couple of things occur to me. Number one, I just want to say the fact that Annette is able to talk about how much freedom she has. You know, BQH is built upon freedom principles. Often we talk about that on the practitioner side, but of course it's on the other side too, with the client, what they need and what they need to be free from. And freedom is such a big part of this. And in my own evolution of past lives, there was a lot about the Nazis and the Germans and my own personal
Oh,
history.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, some, you know, excuse me, some real big lessons there. But I wonder,
Huge.
I wonder if you'd address the point about this persistent notion that you only ever need one quantum healing session to fix everything. Talk to that.
I mean, it's not incorrect in some ways. You know, it's like I don't want, there's also there was benefit from Annette from that first session. And there's no way to deny that. So one session's great, but can you deny that there's always going to be a benefit when you tap in to your, it's not like something you just listen to that intuition one time and then never listen again. so so I love to
Right.
address this point because really there's no it's immediate. At the same time, when you're looking at quantum, that means it can happen at any point. So you're directing the willpower. The healing you need could have happened 4 centuries ago in a different lifetime with someone you quote unquote don't know and never knew anything about. The healing could happen in the future and you're bringing it back in time and applying it now. There's really no limitations. And so, yeah, you can have one session and it's great. And I wouldn't tell somebody not to. You don't think you need 100 sessions. I don't think you need 15 sessions to come
No.
to the same realizations. At the same
Right.
time, every session we've had, it's created expansion, benefit. It reinforces
Yes.
what we've gone to. We see those 12 or 11 squares and we visit the personalities and see how that relates to, you know, one time Annette saw herself as a little girl with balloons and she's letting go of the balloons she doesn't need anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to go into an embodied lifetime of somebody
No.
else to do that either. So there's such a
Right.
range that this type of healing provides. It's not just past lives. It's not just
Right.
aliens, which I mean, we can visit Lyra or we can go see a planet that's
Yeah.
been destroyed. We can go to World War II. We can see the tragedy that happened there, but it's some of it is so subtle.
Yeah.
It's just about accepting. And I think that BQH is from my experience, it's the most allowing modality that I've encountered. There's no rules against helping somebody if they need the help. You can do it online. You can incorporate other modalities that you've learned. It's very intuitive and really is a heart-based modality.
It really, really is. Well, you know, as we are coming to the end of our time together,
Okay.
Annette, this is just so fantastic. My guess is that, you know, the people around you are benefiting just as much as you have. And I want to just thank you so much for taking time out of your day and allowing, you know, allowing us and our audience to have a little peek into some of your sessions and some of the outcomes. And allowing us to share in some of the joy of some of the miracles that you've received and created for yourself with Julia's help. Thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. It's been a joy, actually.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you both this morning. Julia, let everyone know, other than quantumhealers.com, where you can find practitioner in your area, how can people find you?
let me remember my, like, what is my, I'm at 5dexpansion.com. That's the website where people can read about experiences, learn a little bit more about quantum healing, check in with me, or you can just email me directly at 5dquantumexpansion@gmail.com. I've written about Annette's experiences and several of them, not necessarily all of them, and a lot of other clients. So feel free to check that out. And if you want to book a session, message me.
Super, super. And if you are a quantum healer of any kind, you don't have to be a BQH practitioner. You could be a cranial sacral therapist. You could be a life coach. You could be a tarot card reader. You could practice Dolores's method of QHHT. We welcome you to our community of quantum healers at quantumhealers.com, where we are guru free. That means you can do you, we can do us, we can come together and help each other, and without judgment, as much as we can possibly do that as humans. And we support each other, and I learn from you all every day. And we welcome all service to others practitioners, quantumhealers.com. Thank you so much, ladies, again. I hope you have a brilliant day.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.